part of what I think is so important about celebrating commemorative months like Black History Month is that they act as the beginning of the conversation, not the end. This is a great way to get people engaged around really important issues and interests within the Black community. I think people are going to be really impressed with the diversity of films and events and the ease of access. We've worked really hard to make this a really accessible program. All of our events will be available on our MKE Film Facebook page, our Black Lens Facebook page, and our MKE Film YouTube page. So you can go to either of those pages and watch events for free. Our films will be available on our watchmkefilm.org page from February 1st through February 28th. Hey, how's everybody doing? It's good to see you tonight. Welcome to week 3 of Milwaukee Film's 2021 Black History Program presented by Molson Coors. This week, we turn our focus to workplace development and STEM. My name is Gerard Blanks. I'm Director of Cultures and Communities for Milwaukee Film. For the month of February, Milwaukee Film is dedicated its programming and films and events that celebrate, honor, and elevate Black culture, traditions, and history. Tonight's conversation, Reducing Barriers to Employment and Advancement, is informed by the film The Road Up and features a panel of local employment experts from Employ Milwaukee and Goodwill Industries, as well as 2 of the stars from the film, Kristen Robinson and Jesse Teverbal. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize our event sponsors, CUNA Mutual Group, Goodwill Industries of Southeastern Wisconsin, United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County in partnership with Manpower Group, Molson Coors, and Morgan Stanley. And I want to give a very special shout out to our community partners, the Center for Urban Research, Teaching, and Outreach at Marquette University, YWCA Southeast Wisconsin, Community Advocates, Milwaukee Transitional Jobs Collaborative, and the Milwaukee Reentry Council. Visit mkefilm.org/BHM for more information and to purchase tickets and passes for films like The Road Up. Believe me, if you haven't seen The Road Up, you'll want to see The Road Up after our conversation tonight. Trust me, it is an amazing film. Also, be sure to tune in this Thursday for our STEM Symposium presented by Northwestern Mutual Data Science Institute, Milwaukee School of Engineering, the Center for the Advancement of Humanities at Marquette University, and Manpower Group. Again, this entire week, we are really pushing the idea of science, technology, engineering, and math, and its connection to diversity. Again, this is an honor for us to host this panel tonight. And if you haven't seen The Road Up, please go see The Road Up. It is an amazing film. It is now my honor to introduce our moderator, Dr. Robert Smith, Professor of History and the Director of Marquette's Center for Urban Research, Teaching, and Outreach. He will lead this talk and get things started by introducing the panel. Just so you know, Dr. Smith, is not just a brilliant professor at Marquette, but he is a longtime supporter of, as well as Curto, the department he runs, is a longtime supporter of Black Lens in Milwaukee Film. So again, it's an honor to have him moderating our panel tonight. Dr. Smith?
Gerard, thank you very much, brother. And I want to just one time say, you all always bring an excellent run of films, and it's been an honor to partner with you all throughout the years. And you've done a dynamite job here in February. Folks out in the digital world, we have an awesome conversation in store for you tonight, and we're going to get right to it. The Road Up is a remarkable documentary, and you're gonna hear some very important commentary about the film and some very real life issues being discussed. First, let's bring out Jesse Teverbal, the Director of Student and Alumni Affairs at CARE, featured in the film. Brother Teverbal, welcome. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you this evening. Next, we'll bring out Kristen Robinson, who's also featured in the film. Ms. Robinson, it's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for your time and your experiences that you shared with us on film. Next, we'll bring Tony White, Director of Programs at Employ Milwaukee. Tony, it's good to see you again. Hello. And next, Brenda Saunders, Director of Workforce Connection Center and Mission Partnerships in Illinois. Ms. Saunders, it's a pleasure. Welcome.
Hello.
Folks, what we're going to do tonight is give each of our panelists just a minute or two to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they're up to, their connections to the film, and any thoughts that resonated broadly with the film in terms of their expertise and their work. And then we're going to get right into a conversation about successful approaches and solutions and supporting our family members and our friends in this road up. And then also we'll give the folks a chance to do a little bit of a concluding set of commentaries, and then we'll get into some Q&A. So panelists, you all ready to get started and get going with this conversation tonight?
Yes.
All right. Brother Teverbar, lead us off. Talk to us a little bit about what you're up to. Talk to us about your role, and then also give us some thoughts about your engagement with the film and being a featured subject there in the film. And then Kristen, we're going to come over to you next. Let's have all the panelists mute as well if you're not talking at that time. Brother Teverbar, go right ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Smith. Thank you for having me. You and Brother Gerard look like y'all might be brothers there, for real. Y'all kind of fake each other. I don't know if you've gotten that before. But again, my name is Jesse Teverbar. I'm Director of Student and Alumni Affairs of CARA Chicago. And to kind of maybe break that title down a little bit is, if you can kind of think of it as the principal of a school or something like that. My job and my responsibility is to make sure that our curriculum is shared across our enterprise. We have different portals and different entry points where participants can join CARA. Everybody is not coming from the same space, so we do our best to meet people where they are in their lives. But we still want people to still, whatever point or entry point that they come in, that they still receive this idea of what CARA is all about. And what we are truly wanting to do is to reach people's real and lasting success. I know we're in the workforce development kind of lane, but CARA does not believe that a job is the end all, the be all to someone's success. I am more than a paycheck. If you just throw a paycheck at me and don't take care of and solve all the other issues that's got me in the circumstances that I am in now, it's only a matter of time that that house of cards come crumbling down. I cannot solve my problems with the same mindset that created them. So in other words, whatever got me in these circumstances, your fault, his fault, their fault, whoever's fault it is, whatever got me into it and what belief system I'm going with when I got into these circumstances is not going to get me out of it. And so how do I start changing my belief system? I behave according to what I believe. And so if I can start changing that, I can start changing what I believe, my thoughts. I can then start changing my words that come out my mouth. What come out my mouth then just goes into my actions. And those things, that's how you change behavior. That's how you get out of this rut and off this hamster wheel. And that kind of keeps us in saying, why am I still in this same situation? And so part of my job and at CARA and what we believe in is our curriculum is based on this holistic approach of a human being, not just my professional life, which is important, but my personal life as well. If I neglect my personal life, eventually it's going to affect my professional life. If I neglect my professional life, it is going to start affecting my personal life. So we have this holistic approach in addressing a human being, and we start peeling away the layers of those masks that we all wear that we don't want everybody to know about. I don't want them to know this. And again, peeling away the deepest truths of who we are, that you are not your mistakes. Just because you did something that you're not proud of, that's not who you are. That's something you did. Right. So that's kind of the essence of what our curriculum and what CARA is based on and how we reach this idea of real and lasting success.
Thank you so very much. And folks, if you haven't seen the film, definitely check it out because all of that is wrapped up in that wonderful documentary. Ms. Robinson, talk to us a little bit about what's going on with you. Give us a bit of an introduction, and you were obviously featured in the film. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to and your experience with the film.
Sure. Thanks for having me so much. Thank you, Dr. Smith and everyone on the panel. Right now, I am teaching visual arts in Cleveland, Ohio. and I am the co-founder of a collective called Ecofeminist Action Institute, which is a network of interdisciplinary artists and researchers exploring the intersection of women, technology, and nature. And during COVID, I got the chance to kind of establish that. And so that's something that I'm really excited about being able to push through in this dark, cold winter or whatever. So I'm doing that. And I guess as far as my role in the film was just to do what I was there to do, which was go and complete Kara. And one of the reasons why I did Kara, in the trailer, they kind of use one of my phrases out of context where I say, you know, I know how to work and all of this, but it was when I left prison, one of the statutes in Illinois had changed, which was if you were convicted of a felony, if you completed a job program or a workforce development program or any other type of program of that nature, you could immediately seal or expunge your record. And before that, you had to wait 7 to 10 years. So when I got into the living situation and everything, Kara was an option, and you know, it's pretty hardcore. I think that they show like they show that part, but I mean, it was like, you know, you can't be late. Jesse will tell you can't be late a minute or two late for anything. I was getting up at 4 in the morning. I've always been an entrepreneur, as you could see bits and pieces of in the film. And it was just a completely different business. Corporate is, as you could see, the complete opposite of my quiddity. So it was a great experience, and it was just up to me to share. And part of that was doing the exact opposite of everything that I had chosen to do before, to try to get myself into a different space. And so even looking at it from now, I'm going, wow, that's like the nicest and most vulnerable I've ever been in my life. So I'm really glad that I got a chance to capture that.
Well, we certainly appreciate you, you know, having the courage to share your story with us so we can learn from it. And I want to make sure to say that for those of us who've watched it, thank you so very much for your willingness to share your story, because it's powerful. Miss Toni White, what's going on this evening? How are you?
I'm good, Dr. Smith. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Jesse and Kristen, you guys did a wonderful job in the film. I'm telling everybody I know to watch the film. But as Dr. Smith said, my name is Toni White, and I'm a director of programs here in Milwaukee at the organization called Employ Milwaukee. We are the Milwaukee Area Workforce Development Board for Milwaukee County. My job as a director is what I tell people is to make sure everybody gets what they need to move forward. Be it those who work for me, those who we serve, the community members, our partners. What I liked about the film was very relatable. I was in those classes as a person. My passion and purpose is in workforce, because I know that if you work the program the way that it works, it is successful. You do have to be real. So the Road Up was a reality show for real. And so I've been a Jesse. So I've worked, I've facilitated workshops. I've been a Christian, meaning a single mom receiving public assistance, trying to figure out my way. And, it's a lot of hard work to change your mind, your actions, your thoughts. So I definitely thought the film was a great opportunity for anybody in this field to watch and understand all of the work that goes into changing the trajectory of the people that we serve. And I love the fact that you guys emphasize you make some choices. It doesn't mean that defines you. So in my role, I'm always looking for opportunities to expand the needs of the end user. We've partnered with a lot of community partners. Milwaukee is resource plentiful. However, every dollar comes with some kind of requirement. So we're always looking for unrestricted funds that gives us additional dollars to be able to support the needs that isn't necessarily legislatively tied in any kind of way. So in our partnership with our local United Way, we have paid trainings, um, opportunities for individuals, which isn't common. They give you operational funds, but they don't give you a lot of supportive funds. And so we're always looking for, how do we help get an ID? How do we get transportation? So that's my job. My job is to meet the people where they are, understand what's available and what's not, and then to go look for money to try to figure out how I can bridge the gaps of what's needed for the people of our community. A lot of the funding comes with a lot of paperwork, so I do have to do all the reports, and make sure that we can keep the funding continuing. And then there's times when we have to go out and be the rubber that meets the road if I have to do that. And I service youth, adults, dislocated workers, reentry population. So I'm usually in every aspect of the programs that come through our building. Some of those programs we administer at the building. Some of the programs we contract out with community-based organizations, and I oversee those things. So my whole goal of being a director is to make sure the people of the community who need it are being served, they know about it, and that whatever there's a gap and we don't have the funding to do something, let's go. If I have to beg, if I have to go knock on doors, so that making sure that people are able to be the best person and have the access to the resources, equity in the access and the resources to move forward and progress. That is my goal in developing workforce programs, and creating them. So I am what I call the implementer. And so I really say it. So I take the concepts and that are our planning department. They come up with these concepts, and my job is to make it happen.
Great.
And to make sure at the end that I'm, able to quantify and qualify the impact.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. As we get Ms. Brenda Saunders into this conversation, Director of Workforce Connection Centers, one of the things that was most impactful as I watched the film was the mirror. When you have to stare in that mirror, you got to answer. You got to answer to yourself. Ms. Saunders, jump on in and tell us a little bit about the work you do and any thoughts that you want to share about the film.
Oh, absolutely. My name is Brenda Sanders, and I am the Director of Workforce Connection Centers and Mission Partnerships of Illinois. And what we do is, myself and my counterpart in Wisconsin, who's Roseanne Lewis, we have the Workforce Connection Centers, and we assist individuals in obtaining employment. And not only do we assist them in obtaining employment, I also work on government contracts as well. But when we have individuals that come into the center, they're not only looking for employment, sometimes they have multiple layers of issues that they're dealing with. They're homeless, they have government phones that, they don't have any minutes at this time. They are homeless, they are looking for a job, they don't have any experience, they don't know how to use a computer. So what we do is we try to assist them in gaining employment and to become self-sufficient in the different resources that they need. We also provide, like I said, intensive services through contracts. So, they need clothing vouchers for interviews. They need venture cards for to travel and get to an interview. Through our partnerships with Lyft, they can get, to and from training. So we try to build a network of resources so that they can become self-sufficient. And one of the things, we also, our vice president of the Workforce Connection Centers, and also have a staff and business unit. So what we do also is we work with employers to build relationships, because that is so important. They do need, the employment to become self-sufficient. So we are always networking with employers as well as community-based organizations, because we're not the be-all, end-all. So what we might not have, we build relationships with other organizations. Okay, well, you can go over here, you can get your free birth certificate with this, or you can get, housing over here. So we try to address the multiple layers of barriers that they have. And a couple of things about that movie, and I'm going to tell you, Jess and Kristen, I watched the movie twice. You guys did an awesome job, and I'm like he said earlier, when that scene about that looking in the mirror, that really touched me and really resonated, because it's like, you made a mistake, but that's not you, right? And I mean, just to see the individuals look in the mirror and to break down and say, they were worthless, and, they messed up and they did this. And for you, Jesse, to come out and say, this is not you. I thought that was very impactful. And one last thing also is when you held up those papers and said, these individuals have obtained employment and these individuals have lost their jobs. That really resonated, because we worked so hard, because you've come to us for help. And we're out there building relationships. We're beating the pavement. We're making calls. We're trying to get you that job. And then, our partner employer call and tell us, oh, well, John didn't come to work today. And, you called John and it was like, well, I overslept, or, that was too far. The job was too hard. And so it's kind of like a letdown. But when you hear success stories, like you hear stories about like Kristen, or when we have those clients that come in and they're really passionate about that job and they're committed and they want to succeed, and and you build that rapport and they get that job and keep it. That's where the passion comes in at. And we're very passionate about what we do, and we're very passionate about helping our job seekers come in and to get to the road where they're trying to go. So that is kind of like a nutshell of what we do, but that's not all we do. It's a lot more, and I'll get into that as we go on. But thank you guys for having me here.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. We appreciate it. Each of you are with institutions, and you're a part of institutions where you've been able to build success into the institutional framework. But for friends and family members, for folks at home, and I'm going to come to Kristen and then over to you, Jesse, get you all back in the conversation. What kind of advice do you have, or what approaches would you suggest for folks who want to be supportive of friends and family members who are, coming out of difficult circumstances, trying to right the track, so to speak, and getting back into the workforce, or thinking about, going back to school? What are some suggestions or advice you have for us as we, support our friends and families? And, we're not a part of those institutions. We're just at home. What thoughts do you have, Kristen? And then Jesse, jump in.
I would say become a part of those institutions in some way, shape, or form. Like I said before, the hardest part about Kara and that period of my life and self-observation was doing everything that I didn't want to do, which was everything. So, I mean, if it meant getting up at 5:30, 4:30, if it meant talking to people, smiling when I didn't want to smile, researching, doing things. In my case, I suffered with addiction. One of the things that was the most frustrating was when, people, we have a cultural stigma with drug addiction, and then we have just like the aesthetic and just what we already know. Just like we just don't want to deal with it. We already know. We know people who have let us down, or whatever. And I've been that. I've been like on the good side of that, and the fifth circle of hell with it. And one of the things that was most frustrating was when people didn't do research and they go, well, why do you keep doing this? Or you're a smart girl, you know better. And it's like, even in 2021, I've talked to people and they don't understand that addiction has to do with like neuroscience, like when you fry, like chemicals fry your brain, right? So you have to reshape these pathways in your mind, and that takes time. And there's going to be problems, and there's going to be bumps along the road that, and say, oh yeah, you're doing great. And then you let somebody down. It's like, hey, I can't do it anymore. And just doing the research so that you can know when you're actually enabling someone or when you need to just, you know, thug it out a little bit more, you know, and be there a little bit more and listen. And when I say become part of the institution, it's one thing to, you know, listen and, you know, post a black box or, you know, give money or go to a few programs or, you know, watch a few live streams. But if that's kind of like, okay, cool. If that's something that's really in the part that makes you wiggle because you're frustrated by it and you're really just out of your comfort zone, I'm not judging you. But if it's really like you have to go past that, go there, be around people who make you uncomfortable, you know, read about it. Like, you know, it's mind-boggling to me how much people feel like they are supporting. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes, the best thing I can sum it up with, what came from Muhammad Ali. Someone asked him, you know, how many sit-ups do you do a day? And he said, I don't count, I just start. You know, when it starts to hurt is when it starts, you know. And that's kind of how I apply helping someone or becoming involved with anybody who has, whether it's an addiction or a financial or a mental health issue.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Jesse, give us some more thoughts. We want to be supportive of friends and families. Give us some approaches to consider.
Yeah, well, here's one thing I want you, hope everybody appreciate, because those who have seen this documentary, you all know I curse a lot, right? So I'm doing my best to keep it clean and not curse and anything else like that. But part of what we can do in supportive is one thing is to again, Kristen mentioned it, is about enabling, right? You got to hold people accountable. And not only that, people who find themselves in circumstances and situations like that, when we find ourselves like that, one thing that we want is structure. One thing about my life has gotten so out of control and so unmanageable, just the brain power to kind of be detailed and disciplined and all of those things, I cannot concentrate on that. And so if I can provide some structure, so now you can concentrate on those things that you need to concentrate on and then hold somebody accountable. A lot of the, and this is not everybody, but, and again, this is not no exact science, but I contend that 75 to 80% of people's challenges when they do find themselves in circumstances like this is they're surrounded by a bunch of enablers, right? They're surrounded by a bunch of, okay, that's my baby, you know, I love my baby and I'm gonna help my baby. You know what? And they stood up in the back bedroom, living on the couch and things like that. Again, I'm not saying that you just have to just dismiss and disown your loved ones, but we've got to stop disabling. And part of one of the tough things that I do in my class is, again, it's that boot camp. I cut the enabling at all those things that Miss Brenda and Miss Tony, I think it is. Yeah, that you all mentioned, that the resources that you provide, we cut all that out. I got it. You all have those challenges. You have all those issues. Now what? So what? What we gonna do about it now, right? And again, to get to the point of what is the issues and what are we going to do about it? It's almost, I consider myself almost like a drill sergeant. My job is, again, when you go into the military and you get recruited and they send you into the recruitment office and then they send you off to boot camp. What is the job of the drill sergeant? That man's job is to do everything they possibly can so you can come home to your family. I need to get you back home to your family. I'm not going to be coddling you. I'm not going to be rubbing you. I'm going to love you to death. And you know, the drill sergeants, they love their soldiers, but their main objective is to get them back home to their family. And so that's part of what I consider my responsibility too, is, again, after we get all of this, all of these layers peeled away and I'm butt naked raw, how do we start building back up? How do we start putting something on this frame so when you go back into the real world, whatever your challenge is, Kristen just mentioned about what her challenge was. Those issues and things, they're not going to go away. What is going to be my ammunition now? What's going to happen when I get disappointed now? What's going to happen when, again, I have this entrepreneur spirit and nobody wants to listen to my ideas now? What do I do? Do I go back to that old kind of safety blanket that got me in those circumstances, or do I kind of fight back? So part of that whole thing is about, again, how do you be supportive? Is you get the difference. There is a difference between supportive and enabling. I gotta let you know, look, son, daughter, brother, sister, child, whatever it is, I'm here for you. But this is what I will not put up with. I will not put up with this. Here's some resources. This is what you want to do. And as long as we stay on those tracks, because once we start keep enabling and kind of putting up with some of the behaviors that got a person in that certain circumstance and situation, is just going to prolong it. And I know they want to use this old cliche and everybody say this tough love or whatever, if that's what you want to do about it. But it's not tough love, it's just love. It's just love.
Yeah.
Again, you've got to say, you know what, this is what we will not put up with.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. Tony or Brenda, you want to jump in? Either of you want to get back into the conversation and just talk a little bit about some successful approaches and strategies that you're aware of and offer some thoughts to folks?
I'm gonna just say I definitely agree with the implementation of accountability that's built into the program structure. You have to have that because that's life. I liked in the film where, you know, they were able to see it from the employer perspective as far as expectations, and then how that came together, meaning you are expected to be this for this employer. So in order for you to be that, become that, you need these things. Support and enabling are two different things. So I definitely agree with that as well. And I usually tell people when they come, because I usually get the complaints that come through my office, I'm not going to work harder for you than you are. That's a common statement, meaning I'm going to support you. I'm going to give you the guidance. I'm going to give you the resources. But I need you to do the work, you know. So, and I think understanding everybody's roles, responsibilities, expectations, and then it's you know, my approach is a little bit different based upon the audience. Like I said, I've run a lot of different programs for a lot of different audiences. When you have young people, young adults, you know, it's a different approach. But all in all, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility for you. I'm here to support you and help you in that process and guide you. But enabling is not what we do. So it's really implementing programs where you understand what it is and what it isn't from the beginning. And then I say, you made this choice. So it's really, and then it's a selection process. So it's not like you can just come in and no, you have to show that this is what you want to do. So when we develop programs, we definitely develop them, but of course, we're going to connect with the community as far as resources and all that's what's available. But these are things that you're going to have to make yourself do, you know, or we're going to, you know, change your mind frame. And a lot of us come from different broken situations, or, you know, a lot of who we serve come from situations where you didn't, you know, things happen, but how do we change that? You know, and you do have to change how your mind works. That's for starters. So I agree with Jesse when he said you got to change your mind frame. You got to change your mindset. Anything is possible if you want to do it. It's how bad you want it and how bad you want to do it. And there's always people to support you in those areas that you're trying to do. It's just how do we connect you to that when you're ready? We use the mirror in our classes to say, are you ready? Are you ready? Because it's going to take a lot of work. The person you see right now ain't the person you're going to see 6 weeks from now or 8 weeks from now.
Brenda, you got any thoughts you want to add there?
Oh, absolutely. And I want to agree with you guys. You know, what we tell our clients is that it's a 50-50 partnership, right? You got to want it in order to get it. We can't, make you get it or be the all for you. So it's a 50-50 partnership. So you got to do your part and we're going to do our part. And so we work with a variety of clients, as I spoke earlier, in the intensive services. So that includes individuals with disabilities as well as the deaf and hard of hearing. So we have to meet the individuals where they are and to get that rapport with them to find out what it is that they need. We've had individuals that come through, they're going through domestic violence, they're going through, being put out there, even abuse from their own family members. So how do we get them to open up and build that rapport with them, and as well as provide resources, right? And as I think Jesse spoke earlier, we're not enablers. What we want to do is we want to provide you with the resources necessary for you to get where you're trying to go, right? And so we have the resources to help you get a job maybe over here, because everything at our centers are free of charge. You can come there for the job portion at the Workforce Connection Center. Everything is free. You can use our phone, fax, computers, internet, for job search, and we also have on-site employee events daily, both in Wisconsin and Illinois. But what is it that you want? How can we help you? So if it's housing, let us know what it is. But you can't be, like they said, and we can't be enablers. We're not just going to hold your hand and, okay, come on over here. We're going to take you over here and we're going to give you this. We want you to meet us halfway. And that's the biggest thing, I believe, in helping them become self-sufficient, to know that we're there for them, we're there to support them. And if you let us know what you need, we're going to help you find that resource, but it's going to be up to you. Like, well, I don't know that phrase they say, you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it. So that's basically what, we do. We want to be there for you, support you, but not enable you. But we want to provide you with the resources and know that we're here. Our doors are open. And I think our founder, one of his quotes, and that was from Edgar J. Helms, our founder. And he said that, friends of goodwill, be dissatisfied with your work until every unfortunate person in your community has an opportunity to develop to his fullest usefulness and enjoy a maximum of abundant living. And so I think that's where our passion comes from, as well as Goodwill's mission, which is to provide employment, supportive services, and employment to individuals with disabilities and disadvantages who seek greater independence. So our passion is all around our mission, and that's what we do, and that's what we do every day. So like I said, but when the individuals come to us, it is a 50-50 partnership. So if you come to us and you tell us you want this, but you're going to go home and lay on the couch and think we're going to call you and say, hey, I got it for you, that's not going to happen. So that's where we are.
All right. Thank you very much. Tony, I'm going to come back to you, and then Kristen, we'll get you back into the conversation. We talked about some strategies and some approaches. As we think about being supporters, and as we think about being anchors for folks in the ways that we can, what are some key challenges we should be aware of? What should we be troubleshooting that maybe we don't know about, or maybe we're not aware of? Are there any 2 or 3 sets of challenges that we really need to keep at the forefront as we work on providing the necessary support and those successful approaches? Either Tony or Kristen jump into with that question.
Well, I could, excuse me, I could start with, for sure, mental health, and not necessarily looking at mental health in the terms of, this diagnosis or that diagnosis, but everything from self-care to, serious mental health issues. It seems, and well, I'm not going to go there, but it seems like there's I've seen a lot more in social media, especially, and with what's going on in the world, that we are able to address, and a lot of times take advantage of in ways, you know, mental health situations where it's like, okay, I have this issue or that issue, and this is what I need. And everyone goes, okay, I'm just gonna like go with that because it's easier. Like I said before, it's easier to just throw money at it or look at it real quick and say, okay, but like, let's like take the time um, to really understand like the differences and the levels between those, right? On just on a daily interactive level 1, level 2 conversation, and be able to take someone to the side and say like, hey, are you okay? You know what I mean? And just something that simple could open up that dialogue to me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Tony or Brenda, let's get you all back in here. Any immediate thoughts come to mind in terms of your work? You've been in this arena for a while. What are some of those key challenges that you've seen folks have to grapple with that folks need to be mindful of?
I want to say that to piggyback off of what Christian was saying, you have to do a needs assessment. You got to identify. It's hard to focus on future when you have a need in the present. You know, a lot of programs are developed to put you somewhere else in a time from now versus what's happening in your life right now. And, you know, what do you have the interest, the aptitude, and the attitude to do? You know, a lot of times we don't ask these questions. We just have people come in the program and then we implement the program according to what we feel, you know, whereas if you don't get the buy-in from them, they're not going to be successful anyway. So you got to do a lot of things up front to while you're building the trust and while you're building the rapport. But it is also important that we do some needs assessments, and then we then you can meet people where they are and then try to figure out what is the best plan of action, individualized and customized, because people are not the same.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on that because when you said needs assessment, when we are working with our intensive clients that go through our program of professional development, we do an intake process on them. And during that intake process, that's where we go through and find out, you know, if they have like medical conditions, what type of medications they're taking. So if something happens to them while they're on the premises, as well as we collect their contact information. So if something happens to them while they're on the premises, you know, they have a seizure or something, we can look in our system and say, okay, this person, you know, has seizures, he's on this medication. We can contact this person, but we got to know what the issue is and how to address it. So I think that's very important when you said that about the assessment and going through the program. You got to know what they're going through and how to best address it, as well as if they are having mental issues or anything, because I talk to my team a lot about when individuals come through that door, you know, you're here, you have a job. When individuals come through that door, you don't know what they're going through. You know, not only, you know, they're going through joblessness, they are, you know, having some type of mental illness maybe, and we don't know about it. So the first thing we're going to say, oh, they have an attitude. But you can't jump to conclusions. You got to find out because they are going through a lot of different things, and then they come in and look at you. Here you are, you're settled, you have a job, and here I am. So we can't jump to conclusions, and we have to be there, and we have to recognize as much as we can. While we might not be mental experts, but we may be able to lead you to the resource that you need and be able to handle the situation as far as not escalate a situation with them, but de-escalate it. So I think that's very important, is to recognize, you know, when the triggers are there and what might be going on. So that's our best practice for us.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for those who are chiming in or joining us, who are or understanding what our organizations do, one of the common denominators, it looks like what we all do is during orientation or when we bring participants in the program, we do this needs assessment, right? Number one thing, you're talking about how do you be successful in supporting someone. First thing you don't do is bring somebody in and start telling them what they need to do, and you need to do this, you need to do that, and do that, and do this. Immediately, they're going to run for the hills. First of all, you sit a person down, and again, when you talk about meeting them where they are, is find out that needs assessment, understand that challenge that they might have. If there is some mental health issues, get them those resources. Again, that does not keep you from being employable. What keeps you from being employable is not being med compliant. And so giving them resources to get back into some therapy if they need it, if they agree to it, and all of those things, because that's the basis of where that success starts from. And part of it is too is building trust. And I believe all my colleagues here will attest to this. There is nothing I can do for anybody if they don't trust me. Right? They won't listen to a word I say. I can preach and just talk to blue in the face until I develop and build a trust. They're not going to listen to me. And so part of the foundation of this whole thing on how it works is developing trust, which means also too, I can't ask all of this and you to unload all your inner deepest feelings and things like that, and I stay bottled up and I don't share the part of me that makes me human, where I'm relatable as well. I have to walk the journey with you. I cannot walk in front of you. I can't walk beside you. We can walk side by side. I can tell you where to look, but I will never tell you what to see. I'm not going to answer these questions that you have in your head. I can give you the skill set, and I can give you the ability to start thinking and finding your own answers. The answer that might be good for me might not be good for you. And so how do you get to the point where you can start answering the questions that's hindering you in your life that gets you over that hump? But again, all of it, this does not happen without developing trust.
Absolutely. Indeed. And folks, here's what we're going to do. We've got some questions coming in the chat from both Facebook and YouTube. And we want to give you all a chance to start prepping some of your concluding comments and to give you a little bit of a window to prep those. We're going to go to some of these questions. There is one question here that I think will work for us. It says your long-term unemployment has an impact on workers. How does anyone go about taking the steps to become more introspective? And I think that question is really getting us into, how do we have folks sort of dig back into themselves? What kind of strategies are there to have folks become more thoughtful about what's important to them? Any ideas about introspection? Go right there.
I got a few because sorry.
That's all right.
I was gonna say I have a few because I've had plenty of time to think about it. Unfortunately, fortunately, actually, one of the good things about being incarcerated is you have a lot of time to think. And one of the things that really, really, really helped me realize just was a multi-changer, life changer for me, was just being able to understand how you really view yourself. Like, where are you with yourself? Like, I realized it took jail for me to realize that even through college, through everything that I had been through, that was the first time that I had sat down, whether I was in jail or it could be in my living room, and sat down that much with myself, written out my thoughts, thought about, reflected. And, people journal every day and all of that. And that's a great starting point. But to really understand where you are with yourself, not just the people that come to these programs as resources, but the people in the programs. Like Jesse is a great example of someone who is really, really self-actualized. You know what I mean? Like, you don't meet a lot of people that can say, hey, I've effed up this bad. Like, I can recognize that in you and draw it out. Well, Jesse's so good at that because he knows himself. and maybe this is really basic, but like we can get away from that. They always, in sports and everything, you go back to the basics, because it's really, really important. And so with introspection, that was something that I really realized. I was like, wow, like there hasn't been a time that I haven't, our phones and all this technology, like I'm like totally weird to my friends because I can set my phone down. I don't care. Like I really could do without social media and stuff, but unfortunately you don't exist without it. But like, how do you feel when you're away from your phone for like however long? How do you feel if you haven't talked to this person? Do you start feeling a certain way? Like these are flags, so not red flags, but they're milestones, and like, hey, this is how I feel. So that was really important to me, and it really helped me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yep.
Yeah, as far as introspection, and again, that's part of our curriculum and things that we have these 5 concepts, 5 ways to transform your life. And that's change your behavior, don't relax, look with new eyes, think outside the box. And that one, when you talk about introspective, is know the deepest truth of who you are. And so part of our curriculum is kind of built of finding and developing what's your purpose, what's your why. Why do you want to get a job? Why are you doing all of this? Why are you putting yourself through this struggle and this journey and all those other kind of things? And so that's part of our curriculum of getting people, again, right now, because you now, like Kristen said, you have this opportunity to be still, right? We've taken care of all those other kind of things. You're not employed. Now is that opportunity now to be still and figure some of these things out. Why? What is your why? How can you ask and find out what your purpose is in life? Where did I go wrong? What can I do better to not find myself in those circumstances in a situation again? And all of those kind of things are built into our curriculum, like I mentioned before, to start peeling away these layers. The more you get closer to the center and to the core of who you are, the more you can kind of start identifying what your future looks like. Again, I'll close, and I know you're trying to wrap up, but all the things that God created that are precious, he puts them in a place that are hard to find, right? You don't see no diamonds floating on the top of the ground. You got to dig deep down, and it is to create those stones. Pearls, they're in the deepest part of the ocean, and where sand grinds together and make these pearls. Gold is all deep inside of mines. You have to mine it out, then separate it from the rocks. Oil is deep. You have to drill for it. It is the same thing with us. The thing within us that is the most precious for us, he puts in a place that protects it. And so we have got to dig for it. We've got to dig for it. We've got to pull it out. And sometimes when life shows up, we don't have the time to pump our brakes and sit back and start self-reflecting and figuring things out. But you have to dig for it, and you have to take the time out to pull that thing out. That is precious.
Thank you. We're going to take one more question from the audience, and then I know Gerard is going to make us wrap this thing up. So one more question from the audience, and then you all get prepped and ready for your concluding comments. This is pretty important. Now, we don't always hear about these specific kinds of options. What accommodations or policies are seen as productive for meeting people with depression who may not be motivated because they are sick? What do we do? Where do we go? Give us some ideas about how to really support folks who are grappling with depression, because we know how prevalent it is.
I think that one of the things is realizing that it's real. Things happen in life. And oftentimes what I might see as a bump in the road, somebody else sees as a hole in the road, and to get up out that hole might be different for me, and access to resources and different things. So I think one is to recognize it for what it is, and to be real with people about depression happens. It's about where do we go to get the resources. So as far as policies, it's making sure policies are in place to allow you to get the help that you need so that you can deal with that in order to continue on. So I think the biggest thing is realizing and recognizing that it's real, and then having policies in place that allow people to get the resources and services that they need, and then they can come back. That's what the question is. Are you ready now? Or if you're not ready now, that doesn't mean you can't come back. That doesn't mean you're not, you can't be part of the program. The program is going to keep going. So maybe now it just ain't the time. We got a bigger situation that we need to get under control before we can put you in another space to move you forward. So I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure that people understand it really does happen to people. And just because it don't happen to you don't mean it won't happen to somebody else.
Thank
You know,
very much.
I kind of agree with that, because when you have individuals, when they first come into the program, you know, they're kind of withdrawn. They don't really want to talk about themselves, but depression is real. And then we can even just look at the COVID situation, how that has had an effect on so many people, that has caused depression. But the one thing is that, well, I'm not an expert on the depression and how to handle that, but one thing is that we've found is that you got to talk to them, right? Just like individuals with backgrounds, you know, they might not want to open up at first and talk about it. You know, the shame about what they did. It's like Jesse holding up that mirror, you know, but once you get to talking to individuals and finding out what's the root or what they think is behind what's causing that depression, and what can we do to try to help you or get the resource that you need. And I think that's so important, because it is real, and it is something to talk about, and it's something to discuss, and it's not anything to be ashamed or embarrassed about. And so I think it's very important to get them to open up and know that, hey, I'm here to help you. And if I can't help you, I want to get you the resource that you need. But be for sure, you're not the only one that's going through it, and it's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, it is very real, and part of what we do at our organization at CARA, and I saw somebody in the chat, CARA is spelled C-A-R-A, CARA Chicago, C-A-R-A, is we have a in-house therapist that, again, we provide the sources. Everybody knows that in the African-American community, mental health is a taboo. Right, you just don't talk about it. I ain't going to no stranger and talk about my problem. But like my other colleagues mentioned before, as long as we provide that resource that is there for them. And again, I am an expert in depression. I happen to be a depression survivor, so I know the seriousness of it. It runs in my family, especially in the men in my family. So I know it's real, and I know how debilitating it is. It can be worse than drug addiction. And so again, providing those resources, and again, not just having it when people are ready for it, that they have that resource to lean on and go to.
Thank you, folks. Now, I'm pretty certain we are coming up on this hour, and Gerard is probably about to yell at me. So let's get some concluding comments, and then we'll wrap up. Let's go, Brenda, Tony, Jesse, and then Kristen. You close us out for the night. Brenda, give us some concluding thoughts about all of this workforce development, helping folks out. Give us some of your thoughts.
You know, as far as workforce development, what I found over the last year, especially with the onset of COVID, is that we had to adapt and adjust to new ways of training and reaching individuals in their job search and to get them where they're going. So both our Illinois and Wisconsin WCCs, we transitioned to providing virtual services. I mean, now it's the virtual world. Everything is done virtually. And so what we found is that our participants, you know, we had to teach them about Zoom, how to do virtual interviews. So we had to train them and adapt to the different ways. And we also began career talks in April of 2020, which was viewed by over 17,000 individuals. And it covered about 25 different presentations. So I think this us adapting to the needs of the job seekers, because things are ever changing, and then to help them get where they are. I think that was so important, because it's not like it was 2 years ago before COVID. You know, everything is virtual. And so you got individuals that got a phone and they don't know how to do Zoom. So I think that the transition that we made to assist them was an added bonus, for real. and you know, it's the way of the world now. So we're very excited about that. It's a different resource.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Tony, you want to jump in, offer some concluding thoughts?
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time talking about workforce development when in
Mhm.
fact it's developing the workforce
Mhm.
according to who sets the standards. And
Mhm.
so in order for us to meet people where they are and bridge that gap, you leverage as much as you can with community agencies, community resources, you connect people, you connect monies, you make it all happen so that people can be in the space where they can actually do the self reflection, the self value, the self worth, and then because when you believe in yourself, there's no limit to what you can do. I think you got to hire the right people who have the passion and a purpose for this work, and you continue to convene and collaborate and adapt to the working environment where you are. And I think more so than anything, is helping people believe in themselves and allowing them the
Mhm.
opportunity to say and do those things that make the sky is the limit. And because it can happen. And
Yeah.
so and then that is key in making sure you build the foundation for people and then they can jump. And that trampoline, they can jump and make leaps and bounds
Mhm.
um, with that. So I think that is key. We are developing the workforce
Yeah.
continuously. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brother Pepperberg, go ahead.
I'm going to join in, tap in so I can leave Kristen to have the last word. All right.
Yes.
So part of what Tony just mentioned again, Ron is dispelling these myths, right? Dispelling these employers, right? Again, if there's nothing about this, the elimination of this checking the box, whether you have a criminal background history, all of these dispelling these myths about people who have these type of challenges. We are eliminating an extraordinary amount of gifted employers right here who are ready and willing to work. And if we can kind of dispel the myth of what poverty and unemployment looks like, because again, the myth kind of looks like, okay, homelessness must mean, again, where you guys maybe not from Chicago, but in Chicago, it's this thing called Lower Wacker, where there's an underground street and homeless
Mhm.
people, everybody who's homeless might stay in Lower Wacker. Homelessness means, you know what, your name ain't on no lease. You might be staying with your boo. You might be staying
Mhm.
in your mama's basement or on your friend's couch. That's what homelessness, again, it can kind of equate to any one of us. And so if we can
Yes.
dispel this myth of what homelessness and poverty looks like, we can kind of now start getting people and giving them the same opportunities. Not that that they deserve, yes, so, but mostly the opportunities that they have earned. They have earned the right to participate in society. They have earned the right to participate and receive all the things, the best things that life has to offer. So mostly it's about dispelling this myth of what homelessness and poverty looks like and unemployment.
Thank you very much. Sister Robinson, close us out.
Wow, all this pressure. Had this wonderful, I don't know, quote or something, but I just want to thank everyone on the panel and everyone in the chats and Facebook and the multiverse and all of that for being here and engaging in dialogues. I think that this is where it at least starts, and this is where the good stuff is made. And I don't know. I guess just I'm getting maybe just words of encouragement maybe to everyone who's watching, who works in workforce, who goes to workforce, who just what Jesse said. Just gets what I get out of this is purpose. I found a lot of things in the world, especially now, that make me really angry, and they propel me. You know what I mean? And so those things that you hear on here and in your life, like, cling to them, and it doesn't have to be in a negative way, but just turn them into something great. And like, I think that this is just like where it's at, and I'm just really grateful for it. So yeah.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Black Lens, Cultures and Communities, Milwaukee Film, that's going to conclude our panel discussion tonight on the film The Road Up. Gerard, I'm assuming you're going to jump back in here, brother. Kevin, thank you for being backstage support. You hooked us up back there.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela.
Okay, well, folks, thank you very much for your time tonight, your expertise. Thank you for that wonderful documentary. It has indeed been a pleasure. Let's keep the work going, and I know you all will. You all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boom shakalaka.
Nice to meet you all.
Laka boom.
Boom, boom.
Part of what I think is so important about celebrating commemorative months like Black History Month is that they act as the beginning of the conversation, not the end. This is a great way to get people engaged around really important issues and interests within the Black community. And I think people are going to be really impressed with the diversity of films and events and the ease of access. We've worked really hard to make this a really accessible program. All of our events will be available on our MKE Film Facebook page, our Black Lens Facebook page, and our MKE Film YouTube page. So you can go to either of those pages and watch events for free. Our films will be available on our watchmkefilm.org page from February 1st through February 28th.